Fuck me.
This is your perfect world, huh?
Peacemaker Season 2 Episode 6 proved that we were all right with our suspicion about that alternate Earth, and we also got a major cameo throughout this episode. During this week's video, we are going to be breaking down the episode, going over the Easter eggs, references, breaking down that ending, and explaining what might be happening next, as well as the major cameo and the setup for Man of Tomorrow. So with that, let's start off with the beginning of the episode, picking up directly after last week's episode, where Peacemaker is getting a meal with Harcourt and his family covered in the kaiju guts. They still focus on the people in the background only being white and no people of color are in sight. We also find out that his dad's name in this universe is actually Blue Dragon rather than White Dragon. But then the episode starts off with the 11th Street kids going over to Vigilante's house because Argus doesn't know his secret identity, so his house is a safe space. And it's a hilarious scene where he's talking about how his mom's a biatch and how she's always a trouble for him. Even though his mom seems like the sweetest person who's just happy that Vigilante has brought his friends over and they're gonna go hang out in his secret base that she's not allowed in. And it was funny that Vigilante turned around and said Harcourt was his girlfriend. It was an excuse to use so that he could explain why he was doing superhero shit during random points of the day and cover up his secret identity. But it was also funny that he told his mom that Harcourt was a slut, and he's like, well, it's not true. So it's just funny to see that whole interaction go down. And we find out that Vigilante's base is just full of cash and drugs because he takes them from the drug operations that he defeats, and instead of giving it to the cops, he keeps so that the dirty cops can't get their hands on it. But when they ask him why he's always broke and doesn't spend this money, he says he can't use blood money. He's still being a hero of pure heart. He might take the drugs and he might take the money, but he doesn't use it because that's what blood money is, and those are drugs. So he only does what the heroes do, which is just overall kind of funny because the man's rich. And I just love how everyone starts shoving the money in their pockets because, well, Vigilante's not going to spend it. Might as well take it for themselves. And I love when they set up the portal and it blows all the cocaine back in their faces. They get mad at him because he doesn't flush his drugs like other human beings, but he says he doesn't do that because of the alligators that are in the sewers, which I feel like might be a little reference to Killer Croc because he lives in the sewers within Gotham City. When they go into the pocket dimension, they see the Crypt Keeper, and Economos calls him a xenomorph. There's a nice little alien reference there. And one of the things I noticed during this scene as well is that Economos is wearing a shirt that has 3 raccoons on it. It's just a play on that 3 wolves shirt that howls at the moon, but it made me think that this might be a Rocket Raccoon reference because of the fact that James Gunn made Guardians of the Galaxy that had Rocket Raccoon. So just a really fun opening scene of them going into the alternate universe, which then they cut towards Frick Flag Sr., who is stressing over the fact that they lost Peacemaker, and now Harcourt and Economos are gone too. They also haven't heard anything from Judo Master, of course, because he's in an alternate universe, but because we didn't see him in this episode, it begs the question what happened to him. If the same thing happened to him that happened to Adebayo when she went outside, then there's a chance that Judo Master might have been captured and thrown in some kind of prison cell. And we find out that he's heading over to Belle Reve, and he goes to meet none other than Lex Luthor, which is our first major cameo in this series, and I'm sure we're going to see a couple other ones when it comes to the final 2 episodes of the season because of how Lex Luthor is going to get involved. Which I feel like this whole interaction in the prison scene is definitely setting up Man of Tomorrow because of the key things that happened within it. First, let's talk about how he walks in with a cane, and that's most likely because after he got his ass whooped by Crypto during Superman, he needed a cane because he got injured during that fight. He also references how the Justice Gang and Superman are interfering with international politics, which is a reference to Superman, where the Justice Gang went and prevented the war going on in the other country, in Boravia and Janapur. So that was just a nice little reference to what happened during that movie. And we also find out that he's annoyed that he's in a metahuman prison, and he has cellmates that are next to him that are a bear-sized man with dragon skin and a villain with cartoon eyes. Now, I don't actually know who this could be, especially with the way he described it, which I don't specifically want to say it on YouTube, but I'm not sure who they might be trying to reference here. So let me know who you think might have been next to Lex Luthor's cells in the comments down below. Rick Flag offers to put him in a non-metahuman prison, which Lex Luthor wants, but I love how they talk about Peacemaker, because Lex Luthor's like, who's he? And when Rick Flag Sr. says that he's not a metahuman, Lex Luthor could care less, because he only cares about the metahumans tearing up shit within this universe, and he doesn't care about the other heroes that are just regular people. And Lex has a device that's able to scan for interdimensional portals, but only wants to work with the government if they release him. However, that's not going to work, so instead, they end up coming to the deal that they'll be transferring him to Van Kull Prison, which in the comics is a prison that's in Metropolis. So this is his way of getting back into Metropolis for when it comes down to Man of Tomorrow, where he's going to be full war suit, probably fighting Superman and then also helping him, because they are talking about how Brainiac is going to be the main villain of that movie. So this sets up Man of Tomorrow, because whatever is going to be happening in the next couple episodes with Lex Luthor working with the US government, he's probably going to work out a deal to actually not go to the maximum security and get out of prison so he's a free man. We'll be seeing Lex Luthor in the next episode, and probably in the last one when they figure out where the dimensional portal is, and then we'll see it set up Man of Tomorrow for the next Superman movie. Now, when we're back with the 11th Street kids going through the alternate reality home of Peacemaker, they do talk about how messed up it is that Peacemaker came here, especially with how he's seeing Harcourt in that universe. And all of a sudden, Keith comes home, and we just have Harcourt fumbling her way through a conversation with him as she tries to pretend like she's that universe's Harcourt, even though she dresses completely differently. And Keith even mentions that he's never seen her wear black or pants, which just shows that the one in this universe has only worn dresses and bright colors. So a complete opposite of the Harcourt we know and love from the main DCU. But that's when everyone starts to split off. Harcourt goes with Keith to Argus, Economos and Adebayo stay in the house, and then Vigilante goes to find himself within this universe, just having a fun scene of him just casually walking down the street in his full superhero attire as he finds his home. And it's almost exactly the same as in his universe, but a bunch of the decorations are different. Some of the stuff he's made are different. He sees Cheerios, which is spelled differently, and his dad in this universe is straight rather than being gay, which makes a lot of sense based on the fact that this Earth is actually an Earth where the Nazis won World War II, so it would make sense that his dad's straight. So that was just one of the other little signs that they put into this tease that this wasn't actually a nice Earth, and our theories for it being Earth X was actually all coming true. But with Vigilante in his house, we get to see that the keys that he has from his universe are exactly the same in this universe, so nothing seems to be different other than placements of items and what they look like. The keys work, even though I don't think that makes sense, but hey, it's fun. It was a fun scene working out where Vigilante 2 reacts like, who is this guy in my house? And when he finds out that he's another doppelganger, it's just a really fun scene showing that they're both dorks. And I love that they do the Spider-Man meme and even reference that they're doing the Spider-Man meme. So Spider-Man exists in the DC universe. The follow-up scene with them is just a lot of fun too, because they just love the same stuff. They're exactly the same kind of person. They reference Pokemon. Infernape's their favorite Pokemon. And then they find out that our Vigilante is best friends with Peacemaker while the other one hates his guts. And that he is his arch enemy because his whole reasons for joining the Sons of Liberty is because of Peacemaker of that universe. Showing that this Vigilante is trying to tear down the oppressive society that has to do with Peacemaker and his family, and the fact that this is a Nazi-run world. And I love that our Vigilante was just super shocked by this because he's best friends with Peacemaker, so it makes me curious to see what's going to happen in the next episode and how they're going to react going forward. And I'm sure our Vigilante is going to join their side and fight back because he's a hero and he believes in those ideologies, especially after last season where he took on White Dragon and his racist members. But that finishes up the Vigilante stuff that happened this episode, and then we have Keith and Harcourt driving down the street, and this is also where they really focus on the people within the background, how none of them are colored people and they're only white, really showing that this Earth is definitely not as good as it seems. And I love that when they enter Argus, the drug-sniffing dog triggers and notices that Harcourt is covered in cocaine. So Vigilante having all that in his house definitely did not play in her favor during this episode, which ends up having Peacemaker walking in when Harcourt's there and realizing that it's his Harcourt from his universe rather than the one that he was literally just sleeping with and left before her. Which after this, it gave us a really great scene between Peacemaker and Harcourt as Peacemaker gets mad at Harcourt for showing up in this universe because he left them and he feels like she betrayed him, even though Harcourt fills him in. She didn't actually betray him and is mad and offended that he believes that she would. All she did was stop him from getting killed by a cyborg during their initial fight in the last episode, which is just a really emotional scene overall, with Peacemaker really wanting to know how Harcourt truly feels about him because of what happened on the boat that one night, which we can all assume that they slept together, and that's where Peacemaker started to fall more and more in love with Harcourt. And he even mentions that she already knows that he loves him because of the way he acts around her, how he's always trying to be with her, help her, generally try to get closer and always trying to find that answer. And I love how she even argues, like, why did you want to have this serious talk when we were surrounded by agents in the park? Which is so true. He was so desperate for that answer that he completely ignored the fact that he was currently getting staked out by Argus and that there was an operation trying to capture him. So it just shows his blindness and stuff, how he kind of rushed to getting into this other universe because he thought it was so perfect. And I love that she even mentions that she was with Rick Flag. They were friends, but maybe something more. And Peacemaker's like, no wonder you hate me. I killed your boyfriend. So it's just him recognizing what he did was terrible and regretting what happened. Even though she slowly started to have feelings for him as well over time, and she started to feel that guilt for falling for someone who killed one of her friends. So I really like how they put that implication in there, because now they're both going to have to move past that, especially with all the emotions flying throughout this scene, where she talks about how she doesn't have access to her feelings, and that's why she gets into bar fights, to feel something. And I will say that Jennifer Holland did an absolutely amazing performance showing that emotion. You can see her tearing up. She was trying to figure out how she feels in this moment, and it was such a well-performed scene that it just got me hooked to like wanting to know what happens next. But of course, with all that going on, Peacemaker still loves her even for her fault. So it's definitely leading up into a big moment of Harcourt realizing how she truly feels and possibly them getting together officially. But now, before we get to that ending stuff of the episode, we got to talk about what's been going on with Adebayo and Economos. Because Adebayo and Economos are just hanging out in the house, and they find Eagly, who's tearing shit up in the kitchen, just like we did a couple episodes ago when they were escaping Peacemaker's house. He was trying to get in the fridge to eat bologna. So just Eagly rummaging through the fridge and being a nuisance and a troublemaker like he always is. But that leads into Adebayo going for a walk and everyone staring her down. And then all of a sudden Keith slamming on his brakes and yelling out that there's a black person, and everyone starts to chase her down like a horde of zombies who are chasing down a human during any of the apocalyptic movies. So it's just showing that this is the racist Earth. There are no colored people around, and Adebayo, being the only one here, is setting off alarms and having everyone go after her because they're not supposed to be there. Which then leads us to Augie capturing Economos in the house, stabbing him in the hand, and Economos just literally spilling all the details about what happened. Peacemaker came to this universe, killed their Peacemaker, and now Augie knows the truth about what happened, which is probably setting up Augie and Keith trying to figure out what Peacemaker really is. Is he actually the Peacemaker of this alternate reality, or is he their Peacemaker that somehow changed? So that'll be their conflict coming up. But now Economos literally has his hand stabbed with a knife. So poor Economos getting beaten and cannot withstand torture. Then we have Harcourt 2 arriving at Argus, realizing that Harcourt's there and calling her an imposter. But at the same time, while this is all going on, Harcourt points out that there's not a single colored person within this reality. It took her not even a day in this universe to realize something was off, even though Peacemaker was just oblivious to all of it. And then we see that the American flag has the swastika on it. So all proving to all our theories from since the beginning of the season that this Earth is most likely Earth X. The Earth where the Nazis won World War II, where Overman is from, the Nazi version of Superman. So all our theories were right about that. And it's also pointing out their family is just like how they were in the other universe where they were originally from, where Peacemaker was the good one out of it after he realized what he was doing wrong and realizing his father was a racist bastard, where in this universe, his whole family were racist bastards. He just didn't notice it because they were acting all nice. They were a family, they were all chummy, but because he didn't notice anything wrong and they weren't interacting with anyone that would go against their white society, it seemed like a normal place for him. So it's really showing how dark and twisted this other alternate reality is. So next episode, we're most likely going to have the group coming to save Adebayo. Because she's running down the street, I'm sure Vigilante is around there somewhere and is going to come out and start protecting her, and they're going to make their way back to the Smith family manor, and they're going to try to get back in through their interdimensional door. Peacemaker and Harcourt are going to be escaping Argus as they flee back to the door as well, as they're all trying to escape this universe, which will probably lead to Peacemaker killing his dad and brother, or one of his friends doing it. I feel like Harcourt might kill alternate universe Harcourt, and Vigilante 2 is going to be helping Vigilante escape. And probably they're going to do something to give him an upper edge to fight back against this oppressive society. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next. I love the fact that our theories got proved, because it's just showing how twisted and dark this Earth really is, because it's something that we kind of assumed was coming, but to get that reveal slowly build up over the last few episodes is really amazing. The way, we thought we were right, but there was nothing really proving that just yet. So it all slowly built into this reveal, which I think James Gunn did a fantastic job revealing. It does feel like this episode was a little too short, but honestly, I'm kind of liking the shorter episodes because it feels like we're not adding a bunch of filler stuff into the episodes, and it's pushing the story along nicely. It also means that we get 8 episodes and we get to talk about it week to week. But let me know, what did you think of this episode? What did you think of everything that happened during it? And how do you feel about this being Earth X or something along the lines of Earth X from the comics. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Marvel and DC and anime videos. With that, I did release my Marvel Zombies video yesterday, so if you've seen that and you want to see a full breakdown, make sure to check it out. I will have it linked at the end of this video. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you next week when it's time to watch episode 7 of Peacemaker.